Hello everybody, Gbenga Olatunji here. We shall be overviewing the performance management. Performance management overview. As a rising leader in corporate world and even in individual's life, we should be able to budget and control it and measure our performance as regards what we've set out to accomplish. And basically, this is the essence of performance management being taught. So let's examine the breakdown of the performance management as a course. It's broken down into A, B, C, D, E, F part. The A part carries the weight of 20: cost planning and control. Cost planning and cost control, 20% of the syllabus. Then planning and control, weighted 20% too. Planning and control weighted 20%. Then performance measurement and control, 20%. Performance measurement and control is 20%. Every leader should be able to make a good judgment, and decision making is critical in the life of every leader. So decision making carries 30% in the syllabus, performance management. Decision making weighted 30. The E part is the strategic performance measurement. Strategic performance measurement weighted 5%. And last but not the least is performance and management system. Performance and management system. And we will see that it make up the total of 100. So the syllabus is 100%. So it is expected of us to know all these and many more. So we go right away into the linkages. So if you are offering performance management, it's expected that somehow you will have learned a bit of the following courses. SFM. So a bit of performance management, you have a bit of SFM in it, that is strategic financial management. Then performance management itself, you will have known management information a bit too through this course. Also, if you are learning CSME, that is corporate strategic management and ethics, performance management is linked into it. In fact, performance management can be said to be the calculation part of corporate strategic management and ethics. Also, if you are offering performance management, you are already a business and management and finance person. So business and management and finance is part of what you will have learned in performance management. So now, these are the topics that are expected of every student to know and cover in this syllabus. We will be introducing ourselves in the first chapter to strategic management, and anyone that has studied or that is studying corporate strategic management and ethics will have advantage here, because this is just a little part of CSME. So we introduce ourselves to strategic management, then we overview the cost planning and cost control. Cost planning and cost control. Then we move on to the modern management accounting techniques. Modern management accounting techniques, just as we know, this word is changing rapidly. And what are the modern accounting techniques that we need to know for management use. Then we go to learning and experiencing or experience curve theory. That is the curve or learning, we usually call it learning curve. So we'll move on to learning curve, learning and experience curve theory. Chapter 5 will deal with the quality and quality cost. The quality, that is quality of production and the like, and the cost of having a good quality product. Chapter 6 is going to deal with the budgetary control system. Don't forget that budget is different from budgetary control. So we are going to learn how to control our budget, budgetary control systems. Then variance analysis in chapter 7, variance analysis. Then we advance to the advanced variance analysis. Then performance analysis, how to analyze our performance so that we would know whether we are doing good or not, and areas we need to amend, or areas we have strength and we could have competitive advantage in. Then we move on to other aspects of performance measurement. Other aspects of performance measurement. Then transfer pricing. It's a new thing in town and it's spreading rapidly. Transfer pricing. We will know much about transfer pricing through performance management as a course. Then we move on to divisional performance. Divisional performance in business units. Then relevant costs will be looked into. Then we move on to CVP, that is cost volume price analysis, how the volume affects the profitability of an organization or of a product in the market, and how it affects the cost too will be looked at. Cost volume profit, that we call CVP analysis. Then we move on to limiting factors, the limiting factors. Then we do linear programming. Linear programming. A good student of PM, performance management, should be able to analyze using linear programming. Other decision makings will be looked at. Should we buy, should we lose, should we not buy, should we lease, and things like that will be looked at. Pricing. Pricing. We look into pricing, then we'll move on to risk and decision making. Risk and decision making, then working capital management. Working capital management. We go on to inventory management. The inventory management. Then we move on to management of receivables and payable. And of course, every accountant must know how to manage receivable and payable, and any business-oriented person should be able to manage receivables and payable. Then in chapter 24, we'll be talking about cash management. Cash, they say, is king. We look at cash management, then we introduce ourselves to capital budgeting. Capital budgeting will be looked at, then we discuss discounted cash flow. Cash is king, cash flow. So discounted cash flow. Replacement theory too will be looked at. Then we move on to strategic models and performance management. Strategic models and performance management. Then we go into the reality of this our word, information systems and performance management. Information systems and performance management. Then last but not the least, we go into implementing performance and management system. Implementing performance and management system. And with this, we will have covered 100% of our syllabus. And this is the breakdown of what we need to know. Let me erase this. So all these 30 chapters make up the 100% of our syllabus. Okay. Let's go into more detail and analysis of our syllabus. More detailed analysis of our syllabus. So from here to F part of the syllabus, this is the detailed analysis of our syllabus. So the A part will be looking at planning and control of cost. Planning and control of cost. So we'll be discussing and evaluating the sources of performance information within the organization and outside the organization. Then we take a look at and analyze fixed and variable costs and its elements. Then we move on to differentiate between the marginal costing and absorption costing. Marginal costing, absorption costing. Then we analyze overhead costs using activity-based costing. Then we move on to cost planning and control of cost, especially for competitive advantage. There we'll be talking about the target costing, life cycle costing, theory of constraint, throughput costing. That's interesting. We'll be talking about backflush costing, environmental accounting, Kaizen costing. Then we move on to the learning curve, learning and experience theory curve. We'll be discussing and the application of the learning curve, budgeting and the relevant problem that associate with it. We'll estimate. Then we'll move on to cost of quality and how it affects our prices and the like. We'll discuss quality itself, how to approach quality, then the cost of quality, how to analyze quality cost, and how to spread them across what we are producing. Then we'll talk about significance of quality cost to an organization. Then we'll take a look at the ethical side of PM, the ethical side of the performance management. Then we'll discuss the accountant's code of ethics. We'll discuss the accountant's code of ethics. Then we are going to move on to the B part of our syllabus, the planning and control. Then we'll be dealing with the budgetary system, planning and controlling. We'll be discussing how to forecast, the forecasting techniques, budgetary system within an organization, and how it can help us through performance management. Evaluation of information used in budgetary system will be looked into. Then we are going to discuss the behavioral pattern in budgeting. We discuss behavioral aspects of budgeting. Then we'll move on to the usefulness and problems associated with different types of budgets. Different types of budgets, how can we apply them, where and when can we use them? We are going to learn. Then we are going to explain even beyond budgeting, like budgeting control will be dealt with. Then we move on to variance analysis, variances and how to analyze them. We're going to introduce ourselves to it. We're going to introduce ourselves to standard cost, types of standard that we have, the method that we can use in standard costing. We're going to explain and analyze the principle of controllability in the performance management system. Then we are going to move on to calculate and apply the following variances: material usage, material mix, the yield variance, the price variances, labor rates, efficiency rate, idle time variances, fixed overhead budgeting, volume cost, capacity productivity variances, sales volume variances, sales mix and quantity mix, the labor rate, sales volume, sales market size, sales share variances, planning and operational variances will be looked at. Then how to identify, and we are going to explain to ourselves the causes of variances and the relationship and interrelationship of figures. We are going to reconcile variances through absorption costing and marginal costing. Then we will move on to the C part of the syllabus, performance measurement and control. And under performance measurement and control, we will be looking at performance analysis as detailed here. We will be calculating suitable financial performance measurements for business, organization. We are going to evaluate the results of the calculated financial performance. We are going to select and use some suitable non-financial performance measurements. We are going to evaluate the result of calculated non-financial performance. Just as we have financial performance, and we are going to measure them based on business objective, the KPIs and the like. We are going to explain to ourselves the causes and the problem created by short-termness and financial manipulation of results and how it affects our budgetary control and evil profitability. Then we are going to discuss sustainability consideration in performance measurement of a business. Then we move on to selection and explain shareholder-based measures of performance that may be used to evaluate social and environmental performance in a business. And CSME students will have advantage in. Then we are going to discuss balance scorecard, Fitzgerald and Moon building block model. We are going to discuss it. All these two have their part in CSME. Then performance analysis in an NGO, as we call it in Nigeria, in not-for-profit making organization, we're going to look at. And under that, we'll be discussing the problems of having non-quantitative objectives and how non-quantitative objective can be measured in an NGO, that is non-for-profit making organization. We're going to discuss the problems of having multiple objectives and also how value for money audit is suitable in an environment like non-for-profit making organization. Then we move on to the division performance and transfer pricing, and there we'll be looking at various methods of setting transfer prices and how to evaluate them. We're going to determine the optimal pricing that is suitable and appropriate models. We're going to explain to ourselves the benefits and limitations of transfer pricing. We're going to discuss arm's length transaction and the limitation of transfer pricing method, the taxation and repatriation of funds on international transfer pricing, and how it affects different organizations and even NGOs. We are going to select and explain suitable divisional performance measure for a given business. We are going to use return on investment, residual income, and the like to evaluate the results and advise management. Then we will move on to the D part, the decision making. Don't forget, decision making carries 30% of the syllabus. So we are going to be discussing advanced decision making and decision support. And these are the following: selection and calculation of suitable relevant cost base on given data that we are going to use hypothetically and other information. We are going to select and calculate and present costs volume profit analysis, and we are going to walk it through. Also, it's expected of us to apply relevant costs concepts to short-term management decision like outsourcing, shutting down, buy, sell, and the like decision making. We are to learn application of key limiting factors, single constraint, multiple constraint, and how to compute and interpret shadow pricing. We are going to learn. Then we are going to move on to different pricing strategy like cost profit, scheming, market penetration, complementary products, product line, volume discounting, market discrimination, to mention but a few. Then we'll go on to calculate and present numerically and graphically the optimum selling price of a product or of a general services. Then we move on to evaluate how management can deal with uncertainty. And just as we know, uncertainty always abound in business organization. Then we move on to the D part, where we will be looking at working capital management. And this is critical in the life of every business. The nature, element, and importance of working capital will be looked at. The cash operating cycle will be looked at, and we'll explain it to ourselves. We are going to evaluate and discuss the use of relevant techniques in managing working capital, and this is key for the survival of any organization. The inventory, the account receivable, account payable, and cash management will be looked at. Then we move on to cash budgeting decision. Cash budgeting decision, we'll be looking at the accounting rate of return, payback period, NPV, net present value, IRR, internal rate of return, and the like will be looked at. Then we are going to evaluate asset replacement decision. Asset replacement decision. Then we'll move on to the E part. It's expected of us to know strategic performance measurements using C analysis, 5 forces analysis, the BCG models, value chain analysis, Hanof's matrix, benchmarking, SWOT analysis. All these people that offer CSME have a good grasp easily, but it's part of performance management too. Then we will move on to analysis and evaluation of performance measures like the profitability, liquidity, and solvency, to mention but a few. Then the last but not the least part of the performance management as a course, we are going to be looking at and evaluating and advising management. How can we advise management even as regards the information technology and performance of the organization? The sources of information will be looked at, quality of information will be looked at, appropriateness of information, and the like. Information technological tools will be looked at, as it relates to our present world. The internet technology for performance management will be looked at. We are going to evaluate and advise management using a hypothetical example on suitable approach that may be used to manage people. How are we going to manage our people as a corporate leader? We are going to discuss accounting information. Then we are going to discuss the role of accountants. When it comes to project management, project planning, project control methods, and standards. So all these topics and segments of performance management, we are going to look at them one after the other. And if you are yet to subscribe, click subscription button. Please do it right away. Subscribe to our channel GJAMES Associates. Like us, comment. We are value to life. We are value to your business.